Good morning, everyone. My name is Debbie Resnick, and on behalf of my co-chair, Joe Goldston, and the entire Western Pennsylvania Board, we're delighted to welcome you here for our first virtual Jewish National Fund Breakfast for Israel. We'd like to acknowledge our Board of Directors and our JNF staff, Jeff Kuck, Eric Goldstein, Nicole Mavarengas, Ellie Taylor, Sarah King, June Gross, and the rest of the staff who help us plan this event. We look forward in a few minutes to hearing from our distinguished speaker, Sharon Haskell, and our honored moderator, Rabbi Jaime Gibson. Before we begin, however, I need to go over a couple housekeeping items. First, everyone will be muted during this event. And second, the chat box is open for you to write your questions down for our speaker and forward them to Rabbi Gibson. Now, it is my great pleasure to turn the program over to my very dear friend and our Western Pennsylvania Board Chair, Stephen H. Schwartz.
Good morning, and thank you, Debbie and co-chair Joe. To those of you that know me, and to my new friends that I'm meeting here this morning, please accept the fact that I believe we should all support our homeland, the state of Israel, through the great work of the Jewish National Fund. JNF is an organization with a vision for Israel's future and a strategic plan to make it happen. Our entrepreneurial spirit allows us to continue to identify areas of need in Israel and to quickly create a game plan to achieve our goals and to improve the quality of life for the people living in Israel. Today in Israel, Jewish National Fund is deeply involved in developing parks, restoring and protecting historic landmarks, caring for the country's disabled and those with special needs, building new communities. They are on the forefront of water management and conservation for Israel, building houses, hospitals, and much needed trauma centers, planting lots of trees, funding agricultural research and development, supporting America high school programs in Israel, projects to grow the population in the North and in the South. And of course, to support all of this, we need your help. Israel is our home, and we must not forget that. On a side note, for those of you who did not know, JNF quickly moved into action in March when the pandemic started and used $500,000 to charter a full El Al jet to safely bring back to their individual homes and cities in the United States 250 students from the Alexander Muss High School and other organizations when they could not find other safe ways to leave Israel. There can only be one constant in our lives and theirs, that Israel maintains its existence, that the great hope for peace is realized, and that our people will always have a Jewish homeland to turn to when in need. As Israel continues to battle the pandemic, we need to remember that one of her biggest economic resources is tourism. Without being able to currently welcome visitors, Eilat, which many of us have been to, a beautiful resort city, has now become the poorest city in Israel, as the country's unemployment rate has now exceeded over 25%. Your support today for Jewish National Fund is very much needed to ensure the future of Israel. Your gift today can help build a new school, a community center, hospital, or house for Jews living in the outskirts of the South and the North. Now is your opportunity to give a gift to JNF. We are also very, very fortunate to announce if you make a donation today, It will be matched dollar for dollar by a very generous donor celebrating Women's Month. And for any gift made by a woman today or also in honor of a woman, that gift will be matched. Double your impact today, and please join me in making the best possible gift that you can to show the support that the Pittsburgh community in Western Pennsylvania has for the Jewish National Fund. I am going to lead this effort today on behalf and in honor of my beautiful wife, Sharon, by making our donation today. You should have either just received a text message or an email to donate to JNF. If you look on the screen right now, you'll see the link that you just received. Let's take a minute now, if you will, and make your gift today to JNF. Israel is our history, our heritage, and our homeland. Jewish National Fund is our voice and our future in Israel. L'dor v'dor, generation to generation. I would now like to introduce my dear friend for many, many years, an avid JNF supporter, and the senior rabbi for Temple Sinai here in Pittsburgh, Rabbi Jaime Gibson.
Now my privilege to introduce an accomplished woman. She is a champion of social causes, active in environmental and water issues, animal rights, and other quality of life concerns. She is a patriot, having served in the Mishmar Gvul, the Israeli border police, risking her life in dangerous areas during the Second Intifada. She's multi-talented, having studied theater in Israel and the US, veterinary nursing in Australia, and political science back in Israel, becoming an accomplished debater. And she is a rising political star. In her second term as a member of the Knesset, she is a member of the Foreign Affairs and Security Committees and the Economics Committee as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our honored guest, Deputy Speaker of the Knesset, Member of Knesset, Sharon Haskell.
Hello, good morning, everybody. And Rabbi Gibson, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm very pleased to be here today. The JNF community is such an extremely important community for our country and for our people as well. So I'm very glad that I can participate, and hopefully within a short time, we'll be able to do some events face-to-face and in person as well. I would like to start by maybe telling you a little bit about what's been going on here in Israel in the recent couple of months. There's been a lot of challenges. We've just finished more than a year and a half of political turmoil. We had 3 rounds and sets of elections time after time. And I'm very pleased and glad that we were able to form a unity government during these times. Obviously, it's not a choice that everybody are completely happy with. We have 2 opposite sides, and many of us don't think alike. But in those challenging times that we're facing, especially with coronavirus, with the health challenges and the economical challenges that we're facing, the Israeli public actually spoke their word. They didn't give a majority to any one of the sides, and therefore we formed this unity government. We are facing these times are quite serious and quite challenging, not just for Israel, but I do think that this is for the entire world, and in particular also the Jewish community as well. As a community, as a Jewish community, we have faced many challenges throughout our past, throughout our history, throughout the biblical time, before the foundation of Israel and after the foundation of Israel. And those challenging times put a test to the unity of our communities as well. And as we are facing worldwide those economical and those health crises, we are also facing a serious challenge worldwide with anti-Semitism. We see the rise of anti-Semitism in many countries, in many states. Some of the events that have happened in the United States as well, in synagogue, in Pittsburgh as well, are very saddening events, and it really reminds us dark periods of times. We have to find a way to unite together, to stand together against those who are seeking to harm us. The coronavirus here in Israel has created quite a lot of challenges. Gladly, our government was able to identify early on some of the signs and have created some of the first restrictions that were imposed worldwide. Obviously, Israel was one of the first ones, for example, to have the lockdowns on airways, air traffic. Our borders were closed for tourists. We started closing businesses here in Israel. Obviously, all of that came with a toll. But the result of that is that we were able to keep the public health healthy and safe as well. Today, Israel have 2,055 people who are diagnosed with the coronavirus. About a week ago, we started opening up, 2 weeks ago, we started opening up our businesses, centers, schools. And so unfortunately, in the last 3 days, we have seen a rise in the amount of people who are becoming more and more, who are identified as positive carrier of this virus as well. I know that the numbers here in Israel are extremely low in comparison to what you are experiencing in the United States. And obviously our heart is with you. And there's a close cooperation. The Prime Minister is on the phone with leadership from the United States, local, federal as well, in order to cooperate together to find ways to overcome these challenges together. We are sharing information worldwide. We are sharing some of the best research that some of our scientists and some of our facilities were able to find. We are quite advanced in the attempts to find it's not just the vaccinations. We are already in trial, in human trials with the vaccinations, fortunately, and we are hoping that within a few months we'll be able to get whether a good results or a positive or a negative results to that. And obviously we are pushing really hard, but there were also quite a few medical facilities who found some medications to some of those symptoms as well. Obviously, these things are things that we are sharing with the international community, and it is very important for us. In Israel, until today, we had 17,000 people who were sick with coronavirus. The last test that we did for the antibody viruses showed that there's definitely not a massive immunity among our people. We're probably leaning towards the 2.5%, which is extremely, extremely low. And so we are quite worried about what will happen in the second and maybe even third wave of the virus, the spread of this virus. Yesterday, there were 72 people who were diagnosed with coronavirus. And unfortunately, until today, we had 290 people that unfortunately died from the coronavirus, from the complex of this disease. I know that definitely in the terms that we're looking on what's happening right now in the state, it's quite low. But as the government and the parliament, we are so worried about every individual here in Israel. And looking after our parents and our elderly is something that is we see it as part of the Jewish values that we want to continue and guard as well. And so we are doing everything in order not to rise the toll of death here in Israel from that virus. Our hospital are quite ready and organized. The military came in and gave a huge hand as well in operating the entire system on how to prevent the spread of the virus as well. There was a lot of ministries who joined forces together in order to cooperate and prevent the continuation of the spread in particular areas. We had to close off and do lockdowns in particular neighborhoods and cities that we saw there was a big spread. Obviously take a toll on some of our citizens, even individual rights for movement and things like that. And unfortunately, I think the biggest toll that happened from that is that our economy got hit quite hard from keeping those restrictions. There was a full lockdown and only extremely important businesses were allowed to continue and work. Right now, we are probably, I would call it fully opened. All businesses, including restaurants, including bars, including parks, with restrictions. We made something called the purple sign for businesses, which is the practice of social distancing, of disinfecting, of a guideline from the Ministry of Health on how to act in every workplace. That allowed fully open of the economy, including schools. And so we probably, I would say, back in a routine. The biggest problem is the toll that was taken in the last 2 months of trying to limit the spread of the virus. Today, the numbers are showing that we probably have around 800,000 people who are unemployed. We passed 2 days ago a huge program in order to bring back most of these people back into the workforce and into workplaces. And we'll probably know in the next 2 weeks whether it assisted and whether we are capable of going back to a normal rate of unemployment, or whether we'll have to take some bigger measures in order to start heal. A lot of businesses also got a big hit. Obviously, Eilat was spoken before. Eilat was actually hit twice. Eilat, unfortunately, during the coronavirus, had one of the toughest and biggest storms that we've seen down in the south. It actually created probably a damage to the beaches, to some parks, national parks as well, estimated at more than 100 million shekels to those places who are mainly the touristic places that usually tourists would go to. Eilat is very well known as a touristic city. This is its main business. And with the lack of tourists who are coming, the hotels closed down, the touristic attractions closed down. We are probably looking between 80 to 90% unemployment in the city. And so we're trying to figure out right now a big package on how to get Eilat back on its feet again. This is a little bit about what's been happening with the economy. I can say that quite a lot of businesses show a great, not just resilience, but adjustment to the new terms of what's been happening because of that virus as well. For example, certain factories who were producing some cosmetics and different things like that actually convert their factories when there was a shortage to like alcohol gel and products of sanitary products. and actually started mass producing alcohol supplies and supplies for the people of Israel as well. So certain manufacturers of fashion and designers started creating different face masks, and started sewing and creating. So many factories were converted and sort of adjusted towards that, so that they don't lose business, and also our people are not too short with supplies. Some of our most famous high-tech company and even military company actually converted some sections and started in the production of ventilators here in Israel to make sure that we're not going to be short of ventilators as well. It created a huge relief in a sense that we were able to actually treat quite well our citizens, and it wasn't a huge impact or a huge line and omes burden on our hospitals and our healthcare system as well. So that was incredible to see how Israelis are sort of joining together as a community and working together. I have to say that to you guys from JNF, that we are incredibly thankful for everything that you have done during those months, very challenging months that we were facing. Some of it has been helping massively as well. I'm not sure if you mentioned, for example, sort of funding a babysitting care for nurses and for doctors that had to work 24 hours around the clock in treating Israelis. And so in the time where the schools were closed, JNF provided actually school and after school activities and care to look after their children, so that they can actually go and provide and save lives here in Israel, which was absolutely incredible. We were going through Passover during those times. Many elderly could not go to their families to have dinners together. Some families couldn't even go to buy shopping, food products to some of their parents or grandparents. Many people who are in need, that normally in Passover, there are these massive gatherings in halls, in hotels, for people in need that don't have money to actually celebrate Passover and do the proper seder in their home. And so they invite them to those massive seders here in Israel. Unfortunately, all hotels, all event was closed down. JNF supplied hundreds of seder meals for people in need, for elderly. I can't even start to express and to tell you what a huge impact and how much that helped with the moral and with the basic needs for those people as well. The Elaine Negev projects, where I go and I visit quite often, which is an incredible project, continue to work regularly. It means that during that time when Elaine Negev is a facility for people with disabilities and people who have gone through very, very difficult accidents or in special conditions and need 24 hours treatment or care, or people with disabilities that come and work and actually have a workplace in that place. It's an incredible village. And while the governments, all schools for people with disabilities, where the workplaces for people with disabilities were closed down, it was pretty difficult to see and to meet and to hear those parents that didn't have a frame or school or provide a daily routinely care for their children with disabilities. They actually showed how they are actually stepping backward in their advancement that was until then, and how much challenges they had at home with those children. that we had to find specific ways to open those daycares, those schools, those workplaces, so that they can continue to go into their routine. JNF made sure that Elaine Negev continues to stay open and provide them with their routine, the daily routine that they're used to, whether it was school and care and the workplace and everything. And those people who were enlisted in that project didn't have the retraction, didn't have that stepping backwards like many other Israelis with disabilities, unfortunately, that we were facing and had to deal with it as well. So really, this is just on the tip of the hand. I don't really think that someone who didn't come to see those incredible projects that you are creating with so much inspiration, it really is, it's only people with true vision, like people that were during the times of the foundation of Israel, that could see further, that could see what can we create from a desert land where there's barely anything. And they started imagining all these amazing projects and how you can create a land of desert into a land of milk and honey, to the point today where Israel is some of the leading force in high tech, in research, in so many different fields, in water technology and many more. That kind of vision that was to our founding fathers is probably the similar vision that you guys at JNF have, to come to build those projects, to continue them, to see an incredible vision for the people here in the South, in the North. And so if anyone didn't go yet to Israel to see some of these projects, I immensely recommend to come and see what a huge difference it actually creates in our community and in our country as well. And so on that note, I would like to send a huge thank you from here, from the Knesset, from Jerusalem, in the name of our government, of our people, and of our country. Thank you so much.
I'll tell you what, since you've been talking mostly about the effect of the corona on the country, there are probably two bookend questions to ask. First is, people like me who've been to Israel 33 times, who go every year, whose summer programs are canceled, of course. I can't go to study at the Shalom Hartman Institute the way I do every year. But people are asking me, when will Israel, with this rise in cases now, reach the 14-day limit where it's completely safe to come visit, because we want to come and be there?
So what we're working at now is something called the green tag for certain countries who are more safe than other countries as well. It means that these countries we will be allowed to travel in, from, and out, and bring tourists in and out. Mm-hmm. I believe, and this is what I'm pushing to as well, we do have an agreement with some countries in Europe that has a very low rate of people who are infected with coronavirus, and this is part of it. The United States is probably divided to certain states in it as well, where it's actually spreading quicker, and in some states it's actually spreading much slower, and it's quite safe as well. So what we're pushing is basically to also label it from state to state on those green tags as well. Obviously, it's theoretical. It's very difficult to actually supervise from which state you are actually coming, because you can easily take a flight from New York to Washington, or from New York to Texas. And even though there would be restrictions for people who are coming from New York for a lockdown for 14 days, people from Texas will not have it. So obviously this is a challenge as well. We will have to face it, and we'll have to see how it sort of works slowly. This is a completely new thing, and so we have to adjust with it as well. But I know that there are some flights that are already open between Israel and the United States, but it is with 2 weeks of a confinement. Yeah. And once we have all these tags out, I believe it's going to probably take about 3 weeks more
Okay.
until we have them. And once that happens, we will be able to reduce the amount of days that you have to be in lockdown. And it's not also out that we might do some tests as well. And if the results come within a few days, then just after a few days, you'll be able to go and travel in Israel too.
One of the problems we've had here in the States is that when entertainment venues have opened up, swimming pools, beaches, things like that, people have not followed social distancing. What is your experience on the beaches of Tel Aviv?
Okay, so it's a bit difficult. If you look on it now, it will look like it's completely packed.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look on the same times during the last summer, you'll see that there's probably less than half of the amount that normally you would have on the beaches.
Mm-hmm.
I have some pictures from June in the beaches, and you cannot move a centimeter in Tel Aviv. And right now there's certain distances. People know to stay away 2 meters. People within a closed family can be one next to another.
Right.
We didn't perfect it yet. Some beaches are closed beaches, more the ones in the north and in the south. Those ones, people are counting the amount of people that are coming in. Some of them you even have to order a place in advance. But I really think that most of Israelis are really aware of the danger of this virus. And many people are distancing themselves by choice. Many of the elderly will not go to the beach. They will rather stay at home. They will go shopping, come back. People with, a specific disease will do that as well. And for us, for the younger generation as well, we make sure that we keep our parents safe. This is the most important thing. We had a Shavuot dinner just last week. We were all wearing masks. We washed our hands a few times. We spread the table. So there's quite a lot of awareness here as well that I think keeps us safe as well.
I think one of the things that you've gotten a sense of from our work in JNF is we not only care about the land and trees and the environment, we do very much care about serving people. And one of the things we've been worried about is the Zukenim, the elder ones who are literally shut in. And are they all accounted for? Are there people bringing them food and medicine?
Yes, we are extremely worried about them as well. It's unfortunate to tell you that as well, but in the past couple of months, there were 11 cases of elderly people with no children who were found in their homes after quite a long time, unfortunately. Yeah. We have that number. There's people from the Social Security who continue to make phone calls, who continue to send people to homes. It's not easy. During, for example, the lockdown in Bnei Brak, which had a massive spread of the coronavirus as well. We didn't just have police officers and local council officers as well. We actually brought soldiers, units of soldiers that came into Bnei Brak. They went house to house, door to door, see who's there, if there's elderly, if they need food, if they need medicine, if they need anything, and they would go and they would bring it. They would mark who's an elderly that doesn't have supplies or that doesn't have anything, and we do it. It's very difficult. It's almost impossible to do it national wide, like nationwide, but on particular area where you know that there's a lockdown and no one can come in and out, you try to do it. There was also a huge rise in the younger generation volunteering in specific Holocaust survivors organizations. They were flooded with phone calls from our younger generation calling in to volunteer to spend just time, a conversation of an hour with a Holocaust survivor in different languages, also in Russian, in Hebrew, in English, in French, in Amharic as well. So you know who to send to which home as well. Obviously, as I said, the number of 11 was a great tragedy. We can't sort of face everything, but with volunteers, with those organizations, and with the nechonut, the acceptance,
Right.
the willingness of the ministries to cooperate together, and they are, we are actually capable of doing quite a good job.
So listen, I asked about one end of Israeli society, the beaches. What about the other extreme, the Haredi? Are the Haredi distancing? Or are they still? I know there were some vikuchim. There were some incidents between police or military and Haredim. Are people actually cooperating now and following the rules in the Haredi community? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. So in the ultra-Orthodox Haredi community, it was quite difficult in the start. There was a conversation between the healthcare system and between the rabbis. Mm-hmm. Now, some of the rabbis immediately pulled out leaflets and saying that it's pikuach nefesh, you can't go to synagogues, you can't pray together, you need to close down the school systems as well. Some rabbis, and that's the more extreme, actually opposed it and continued to make their schools, their Talmud Torah, studying together, praying together, etc. Now, obviously, there's certain collisions on a regular basis with some of the most extreme groups in the ultra-Orthodox. I can tell you that as a combat soldier in Jerusalem during the Second Intifada, some of my field was also in Mea Shearim, where there were 2 suicide bombing attacks, and we had to patrol there as well. Now, you can only imagine what a woman with pants, with a weapon, going into the heart of those neighborhoods, what would happen there. And those images that we've seen are sort of regular images that police officers or military officials will see usually on a regular basis, but that's the extreme ones. I would say that most of the ultra-Orthodox did listen to the instructions. It wasn't enough because the neighborhoods that they are living in is the exact difference between a quick spread and a short spread. This is, 11, 12, 13 people in one apartment. Right. It's enough for you to go to the supermarket and unfortunately someone would cough, you would get it. And then 13 people in your own home will be infected with it. Now, you live in a building, usually an older building. If you've seen the neighborhoods of Bnei Brak, of Mea Shearim, of Modi'in Elite, of all of these places, these are small blocks, one building next to another, apartment one next to another, and everyone has so many people inside. It was just calling for it. And so it took us quite a long time until the rabbis put a full restrictions. Right. The military, as I said as well, was there. We put a full lockdown on not going out of the city and not coming into the city. We made sure that they are looking after whoever needs to be looked after as well. But it wasn't easy. It was quite challenging. But I think at the end of it, they understood it. And you can see now, many of them are abiding by it. I can tell you, I was in Bnei Brak, regularly in Bnei Brak. If you take your car there, you can only drive on like 20K an hour because you have people walking on sidewalks, on roads, kids jumping into the roads. It's like, it has such a huge amount of people in the streets. And you go now, and maybe for someone, I don't know, in Los Angeles, it would look normal or even packed. But for Bnei Brak, it's like really, really a small amount of people are actually walking in the streets and everything. Everybody are wearing masks. If you're not wearing a mask, people are staring at you. So it took time, but there is awareness. I would just mention also in the end, because obviously I can speak about it much more, it's the technology difference. Right. They don't have internet, they don't have smartphones, they don't have computers. And so the guidelines of the healthcare systems takes much longer to get to every single home. The rabbis are the one who are spreading the message. The leaflets in the streets, they have to read it. If you don't go out in the streets, you don't know what are the new restrictions. And so on a positive note, actually some of them started acquiring more internet, more phones. We see it. Even the Minister of Healthcare, who's from an ultra-Orthodox, they brought a special team to his home to put a computer and an internet in his home, which is something that was never there before.
First of all, I want to thank you for sharing what's going on right now. It's real information, and some of us who read Israeli newspapers every day have not gotten this level of detail, and so we thank you for that. We would love to reconnect with you maybe 6 months from now and talk about other issues, everything from annexation to the political climate to the things that we know that you're deeply involved in. I was in Jerusalem, and I literally walked in front of the Moment Cafe 1 hour before it blew up. So I know some of the danger there, and I've been in the Mishmar Zrachi, Lifnei Harbe Zman, and so I know some of this as well. And everyone on this call has his or her own experiences that they would love to share with you. So I'm hopeful that JNF will invite you back for a different kind of conversation, not so bound up in the crisis of this moment, because we know everything about the technical ability in the high-tech sector and the inability of people to receive it if they don't have a smartphone, to do effective contact tracing and all the things that we know are necessary to get out of this crisis. But I want to personally thank you. I feel like I've made a new friend.
Me too. Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to see you all and to meet you. And I'm here anytime, just let me know.
Certainly, and I know we'll be calling you again. Thank you, member of Knesset Shirin.
Thanks a lot.
I'm going to turn the program back over to Jeff, who is our Western Pennsylvania Director of JNF Operations here.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Kuck, and I am the Director for Jewish National Fund in Western Pennsylvania. On behalf of myself and JNF, I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy day to join us for our virtual Breakfast for Israel event. Your ongoing support of the Jewish National Fund in Pittsburgh and all of Western Pennsylvania is truly appreciated as we continue our mission of building Israel. We were very fortunate to have our special guest, Shirin Haskell, take time from her work in the Knesset to enlighten us today, and for Rabbi Jaime Gibson's eloquent moderation. I would also like to thank our co-chairs for this event, Debbie Resnick and Joe Goldston, along with our board president, H Schwartz, for giving so much of their time to make this special event happen for our community. Without them and our volunteer lay board, our mission here would not be possible. Our Center of Excellence team of Nicole Mavroganis, Ellie Taylor, and June Gross have worked hard behind the scenes to ensure that all our logistics and technology were put together. And a big thank you to Eric Goldstein, our Executive Director, and Rick Krosnick, our Chief Development Officer, for their continuous support they provide to me, our board, and our community. Jewish National Fund has a vision that will build Israel, and with your ongoing support, we will achieve a growing and thriving homeland for the future, door to door, generation to generation. We look forward to seeing you at future Jewish National Fund events. Thank you and have a wonderful day.